T.D. Jakes, the big bishop of the Catholic Church. Don't we just love his preaching, especially when he gives his Catholic slant on the Sabbath? Let's have a listen. Now, I promised I would come back to Jakes' previous statement, which was the following.
In spite of the fact that the New Testament tells us not to give respect of days, we're still debating over what day we ought to worship.
I said that although he does not provide the scripture references, I would assume they are the following. So let's jump into those very quickly, remembering, of course, that we saw Jakes paying respect to the Vatican's pagan holy days. You see, he does not mind being trapped by the dogma of the Catholic Church. Romans 14:5 is often used, and here it says, "One indeed esteems a day above another day, and another esteems every day alike. Let each one be fully assured in his own mind." You know, in actual fact, this allows man to esteem or respect today. So this is in contradiction to saying we should pay no respect to any days. But this verse has nothing to do with keeping or not keeping Yahuwah's appointed days. It is referring to days that have not been marked by Elohim as Kodesh days or Sabbath days on his calendar. Thus, it is referring to the rest of the days that a man may esteem or not esteem by fasting unto Yahuwah, not a pagan deity, and fasting in a way that he chooses. The previous verses give the context. Verse 2, "For indeed one believes to eat all things, but being weak another eats vegetables. Do not let him who eats despise him who does not eat, and do not let him who does not eat judge him who eats, for Elohim has received him." These are all one's own decisions before Elohim, and not subject to judgment by another man, irrespective of Yahuwah's set-apart days. Remember that the Pharisees were judging Yahushua's disciples for not fasting. Yahushua said that there would be plenty of time to fast when he was gone. They would be mourning. So this has nothing to do with having no respect for the keeping of appointed days, such as Sukkot, Sabbath, Passover, etc. As I showed, the Catholic Church tried, on the other hand, to enforce fasting on Shabbat, a feast day. So who then resembles the Pharisees here? Next is Galatians, which is often used to show there is no respect of days. Galatians 4:8, "But then, indeed, not knowing Elohim, you served as slaves to those not by nature being gods. But now, knowing Elohim, but rather are known by Elohim, how do you turn again to the weak and beggarly elements, to which you again desire to slave anew? You observe days and months and times and years." Well, this one is the most easy to expose as a lie used by false teachers. If one were to assume Shaul is saying the keeping of Yahuwah's appointed days, Shabbat, Passover, tabernacles, etc., are weak and cause bondage, then Shaul would have been the biggest hypocrite on the planet, since, as we showed, he cut his own evangelizing trip short, saying, "I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem." And he met with the people on the Sabbath day as well, preaching the favor of Elohim, as we showed. The context here in Galatians has nothing to do with the days of Yahuwah, but with pagan days of gods, as clearly evident in verse 8. "But then indeed, not knowing Elohim, you served as slaves to those not by nature being gods." T.D. Jakes is an example of the one Shaul is referring to here, since Jakes respects that pagan day of Janus, to name one. So he is the one who has turned to the weak and beggarly elements and is in bondage again, since he was doing it before he came to the knowledge of salvation, and he now continues to do it after as well. Let's see if the world is expected to respect the appointed days of Yahuwah's calendar. Zechariah prophesies, and it shall be, everyone who is left of all the nations which came up against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to worship the Malek, the ruler, Yahuwah of hosts. So this is a requirement by all the nations that are left, that are surviving after the Great War. And they are required to do something else. Is it A, keep Christ Mass in Rome? Is it B, pay no respect to any days? C, keep Easter Sunday according to the Gregorian calendar of the Pope? Or is it D, keep the 1st of January, Janus Day, at home? Or should we keep Sunday at the potter's house? Or is it none of the above? Well, the answer is none of the above, because the scriptures, Zechariah 14:16 states, they are to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Wow! The Feast of Tabernacles remains for us, and it remains in the last days for the people, as do all the appointed days of Yahuwah. And it shall be, whoever will not come up from all the families of the earth to Jerusalem to worship the ruler, Yahuwah of hosts, even on them shall be no rain. Wow, so Yahuwah uses the Feast of Tabernacles as judgment, those who won't keep it. He is forcing them to keep it. He said, every knee shall bow and worship. And if the family of Egypt does not go up nor come in, they shall have no rain. But the plague with which Yahuwah shall strike the nations who do not come up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So, again, Yahuwah makes a public, open shame against those who refuse to bow to his commandments, to keep his days, paying respect to his days. And finally, I am going to finish off now with the big one, Colossians 2:16. We have covered it to a large extent in this series, but I want to put the final nail in the coffin of the false teaching on it. So it says, let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of a Kodesh day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Mashiach. Again it says, let no man beguile you of your reward in the voluntary humility and worshipping of Malachim, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. Now, is this talking about Yahuwah's spiritual Torah, or is it talking about man and his fleshly mind judging the things of Torah, the things of Yahushua? The body is of Mashiach. That is the substance. It is spiritual, and not holding the head, from which all the body, by joints and bands, having nourishment, ministered and knit together, increaseth with the increase of Elohim. Spiritual. Wherefore, if ye be dead with Mashiach from the rudiments of the world, why as though living in the world are you subject to ordinances of the world, not Torah. The Torah is not an ordinance of the world, for we know that the Torah is spiritual. This is Shaw speaking. It came down from the heights in Shamayim and was written by the finger of Elohim, not by the fleshly mind of some man. Touch not, taste not, handle not, which all are to perish with their using, after the commandments and doctrines of men. Doctrines of men. The Shabbat is not a doctrine of man, and that is why Yahushua, the son of Elohim, is the master, the appointed master of Shabbat. And Yahushua came to teach the doctrine of Torah and do away with man-made oral law of the Mishnah. The Pharisees were enforcing these burdens, which made it difficult to actually keep Torah itself. Colossians 2:23, which things have indeed a show of wisdom, in will worship and humility, and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. This was all to do with asceticism, which we see today in the Catholic Church with self-flagellation and all these kind of things which are not commanded in Yahuwah's Torah, and in no way does away with the appointed days as shown. Even tabernacles remains a requirement for the remaining survivors at the end times, else they will die. So now let's put the main verse, Colossians 2:16, into context by going back 3 verses to verse 13. And you, being dead in your Torah transgression and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all transgression of Torah. Your past transgressions of Torah have been forgiven. Now we get into the swamp when it comes to false teachers on this one. Even the Jehovah's Witnesses like to use it and get all excited in their fight against the Torah. Colossians 2:14, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and is taking it out of the way, nailing it to the stake, or nailing it to the cross, as the incorrect translation puts it. Now, was the Torah mentioned here at all? No. Ordinances are mentioned. So, why does Christianity say the law or Torah was nailed to some cross? It doesn't say that. I mean, really, it doesn't. So you can break the Shabbat and murder then? Right? No, of course not. The handwriting of ordinances that was against us. Was the Torah ever against us? No, but we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully. So if we use the Torah correctly, without the added burdens of Mishnah and other oral laws and other stuff thrown in for fun, then it's good. It's not against us. Was the Torah ever contrary or opposed to us? No. So indeed the law is pure, and the commandment is pure and just and good. This is Shaw speaking, people. Were the ordinances of men opposed to us? Yes, because they made the Torah, which is good for us, void or burdensome. Some will tell me the law was taken out of the way, but Torah is the way. How can the way be taken out of the way? But you have turned out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, says Yahuwah of hosts. The problem is the people, not the law. The way of Torah in his covenant was corrupted by false religion, and thus it has to be restored by Yahushua's perfect teaching, which was prophesied. For this is he who was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, The voice of one crying in the wilderness, Prepare the way of Yahuwah, make his paths straight. He does not say, Move his path out of the way. Yahushua said to the man, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me. For the mystery of lawlessness is already working during Saul's time. Only he's now holding back until he be taken out of the way. So, all you who follow Satan and the man of lawlessness, as represented by T.D. Jakes' teaching, you will be taken out of the way, not the law, you. But this I confess unto thee, that after the way, which they call heresy, you know, how Christianity even today calls the Sabbath keepers and Torah keepers, they call it the doctrine of demons. Well, this is Shaw speaking. He says, he's following the way. So worship I the Elohim of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets. What was the religion of the prophets? What was the religion of the apostles and the disciples, including Shaw? It was the way of Yahuwah, his Torah. Now, was the Torah taken out of the way to make way for Torahless, Sabbath-profaning Christianity? No. See my webpage, Do You Really Want to Be Called a Christian? In the link below. What was taken away and nailed to the stake? The burden of handwritten ordinances of men, which were against us, and his Torah. This is what he nailed to the stake. Remember, the title, ruler of the Jews in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, was also nailed to the stake above his head, stating Yahushua's appointed authority in destroying the ordinances of men, whether Greek, Roman, or Jewish. Listen and hear. Verse 15. Having stripped rulers and authorities, he made a show of them publicly, triumphing over them in it. So, Yahushua triumphed over men in authority, those sitting in the seat of Moses, for instance, who were adding other burdens and false religious dogma. Yahushua, as the master of the Shabbat, now triumphs over the Jewish Pharisees, the Greek pagan religions and philosophies, and the Roman Catholic dogma. So why do you want to be under those pagan elements? In fact, he has triumphed over all false religious dogma and says the Shabbat remains for the people of Elohim, regardless of how they try to oppose it. And by this doctrine of Yahushua, the truth sets us free. He gives us rest, and the refreshing comes as you keep Yahuwah's days unheeded by man-made traditions and their condemnation against you. So let's reverse back to verse 16. Therefore, let no man judge you in food or in drink or in respect of a feast or of the new moon or of the Sabbaths, since Yahushua has given us these and commands them to be kept. And so be it. Amen.